Welcome back, everyone. It is Monday, and we are here again for Where's Your Heart? Championing vulnerability as a core human strength. Teresa here with, of course, Mr. Royce.
Hello. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Going through the process of moving.
I was going to say, are you lying?
I was like, talk about vulnerability. It's been challenging. It's been a challenging start to the week. It was, we started moving on Saturday. That was a whole interesting experience. The funny thing is, I realized that I have not really experienced moving before. Like, I did it as a kid. We moved from house and apartments, but as an adult, when I moved in with my ex-husband, we didn't have a lot of stuff. So when we moved from our little duplex into the house, it wasn't that big of a move.
It was always doing that move is always like, I bring this thing into this room, I set it down, and that is the room.
And we're done.
And we'll shut the door and pretend that it's full.
Exactly. And then I was, in that for over 20 years. Yeah. And I moved out on my own. I went to look for my own space. And so this was like the first time that I was moving, like I actually had stuff. And I still am working on that process of, getting more stuff for the home. But I don't know. I don't know how people like who are in the military or, constantly have to move for business. I don't know how they do that. I applaud them.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's fucking awful. Especially if you're a gear whore like I am.
He's like, it's horrible. Like, I'm kind of like, do I really need this? Maybe I'll just leave it here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's really that important. I'll just leave it here. So, but it's kind of like mission, move out in 8 days. But I'm glad to be here considering how the week has gone. So, or at least how it's starting. But it will lead us to our gratitude segment for this week. Of just, like I said, I think I said it last week. It's just funny when we have to think about this part and think about the things we're grateful for.
Yeah.
And it's some, you're going to have your regulars, my kids are always first, the ability for me to have my own business and use the skills that I have to help others. I'm always grateful for that. I today am grateful for YouTube. I am very grateful for YouTube because, today was a challenge. And then while I was taking a break, trying to breathe through it all, I came across this video. I mean, she's amazing. This girl's great. I love it.
You're getting the lyrics wrong. When you're with me.
There you go.
I'm so grateful for that. I mean, it is amazing the little things that like will brighten up your day and get you through. And I am thankful for that girl, the Cabs family. They have their own YouTube channel and they record moments like this with their kids. And so I thank them. I thank them for brightening my day. Oh, and we have Susan here with us today, our regular. Moved during COVID.
And virtual teaching, like that's the thing that I think, like when we move, I usually just do this whole, like, there's a zone on either side where thou shalt not have internet. Like, and I'm a gamer, so that's always hard, but I just have to accept it. I unhook the internet and that's when shit starts getting done, So having to teach through that, Susan,
no. Applause to you. I learned greater respect for teachers when we were responsible for teaching our kids. Like, they would come to me and they'd be like, here's my math homework. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie. I will screw this up for you. You should just
roll the dice.
Yeah. you take that. I know you got this. You go do this. You got it. Oh goodness. So I couldn't even imagine. But what about you, Royce? What are you grateful for this week?
Oh, see, I thought I was gonna escape this one.
No, I just was gonna start, but no,
Yeah, I see how it is. No, I think it's my kids. Like sometimes their courage is just really, and within the last week, we've had 2 just really tough conversations, one with each kid. And it's always humbling. And yeah, I'm grateful for it, partially because who I am now as a parent, because a lot of these conversations are about who I was when shit happened.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I'm grateful for those processes and all that stuff, but I'm also grateful for their courage. Like they're having conversations now with us that like I'm literally having with my parents when I'm in my 40s. So I'm like, that's guts, y'all. Thank you.
I just the ability to have conversations, I think, is one of the greatest things with your kids. I feel like there have been those moments that I've been trying to like pull a conversation out of them, and it's that whole thing of like, okay, well, when they're ready, they'll let us know. And hello, Kelly, thank you for joining us once again on this Mondays with Your Heart. Always happy to have you. Oh, so yeah, we're gonna have to get a little scroll rolling because we've actually increased our subscriptions on YouTube, which we've been really happy about. Which I will take a minute just to remind you once again. Thank you for joining in. While you're here, please click the subscription button so you know when we'll be doing our shows, or you can catch up on past episodes, and hit the notification button, which will let you know when we go live.
Yeah. I've got 2 more regulars over there saying hi too.
Hello. I always love the
cities. I know. And Vincent.
Hello. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
So
huge thanks to Dr. Gaddis.
Yes. So this has been a very interesting month for the show. There's a lot of changes that have happened, over the past month. Oh, we got Sarah. I'm going to acknowledge Sarah before we go any further. Hey, Sarah. We went with new Showtime, which I feel helped, being that we were smack dab in drive time traffic time. So I think that was good, and I've been loving the topics that we've been doing, especially this past month.
Yeah, they've been amazing.
Yes, they have. And we started the month off with,
all right, let's be clear. Like that was 99% you. Like this thing happened in January, y'all, and I see the email list and we've been having production meetings and like populating stuff and trying to figure out topics and stuff, and then I see February and it's like all there and all the guests are lined up, and I was like, oh shit. Teresa's been at it.
I am one that I'm like, preparation is key. I'm all about, a show runs smoothly when you know what's going on. So, I think the thing that made it work was the fact that there were so many people that are willing to come on and share their thoughts and be vulnerable with us in this space.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome attitudes of, the people that we're talking to. The first show we had for the year was the needs of the modern day Black woman. And I thank you, Royce, for like even trusting that you'll like who I pick.
That show was that was amazing. It was fire.
Yeah, Ayana, Ebony, and geez, I can't remember if Amber was on that show, or because I was like, there was 2 ladies that immediately when I met them in a Facebook group that I'm in,
Amber from Florida, right?
Yes. Yep. Okay, so it was Amber. Yep. So Ebony has out of the group. Ebony, I've known the longest. I've gotten to work with her, and she's one of those individuals that is just no hold bars when it comes to how she feels. It's like you will never have a doubt what, if you ask her a question, she will tell you exactly what she thinks. She's not going to hold back on that. And I feel like that's what that topic was all about.
Yeah.
And Amber and Ayana, I mean, it was a great mix of minds having a conversation about what is needed for the Black woman in this day and age.
Yeah. And especially to even debunk the way we asked the question, because it's not Black women are not a monolith.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much there's so much variety in the human animal, damn it. Quit sticking people in boxes was part of, and there are unique pressures that Black women face in particular.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Sonsiris just shot a really good question here.
Oh man, I wish I prepared for that. I wish I prepared for that question.
All right, so I have a gut reaction here. I remember the first show that, or not the first, a show that was back in, I think, July. I think it was Caretaking. We had Torian and then his friend and myself on talking about, so 3 men talking about caretaking. It was one of the weirdest sideways shows for me, because that's a setting that we normally only see. When I see people on TV doing caretaking,
mm-hmm.
It's always women. And it's so invisible. It's so easy to ignore. That one to me just shook me to the core, and still has it still resonates questions for me. Oh god, yeah. And then just in the last month and a half, we've had 3 that have just shaken things up in wonderful ways, including last week's show, to talk about the variety of ways to engage sex and
Mm-hmm.
physical vulnerability, and to know that is revolutionary work. That was the thing that we came away from that show with, is just the sense that no, this is what it means to undermine, erode, and gradually destroy and wash away white male supremacy. Is we learn to say no to purity bullshit. We practice saying no to that whole structure. So I think there's a lot though.
I would say for me, I think that while I've always been a person that was I feel was always easy to talk to and open about discussing things, this show has caused I think there was this sense of oh, can I really do this when you guys asked me to join, because you never know what the topic may lead to.
Yeah.
And it's going to lead to, the whole premise is to defeat this thought process that if you're vulnerable, it's a weakness.
Yeah.
And I feel that, there are times topics come up and I'm like, well, it's going to be hard to talk about. And I don't know if I have to remember, wait, that's the whole premise of the show. Yeah. So that really for me is what has opened my heart more, is just breaking that fear of having these conversations, and being able to know that it scares me, that it makes me vulnerable, but I know the importance of doing it, because if you don't have these conversations, no one gets anywhere, nobody grows. Yeah. So that's definitely how I see it, being a host on the show. It's been an awesome experience, because it's only helped me grow further in my life.
And you saying yes to this, by the way, was one of those okay, the show will live on. It was one of those moments. So thank you.
That's what I want. And she also brought a late time slot is helpful for work schedule. Yep. Yay. That was one of, it was scary when we made the decision, and yep. We did. We sat around and kind of hummed and I don't know. And, it change is a scary thing, but
especially when you're changing in the first, that change hit 7 months, 8 months mm-hmm. into this venture.
Exactly.
So it's very young.
But it was definitely one of the things that while we go through this process of making sure we want this show to be what we want it to be, we want this show to grow beyond us. While we love it, it is about what the meaning of this show is. And, so it could lead to special hosts coming on, special guest hosts coming on, and the premise will never change. It will always be the same. So while it was a scary decision, I think it was a good one. And Susan, says that stoplight story though.
Okay, so this is especially hilarious to me because as you're telling that, I have a relative who stole a stoplight while he was in high school. He and a couple of his friends, like they stole a stoplight. I guess it was down from an accident. I don't know, but they picked it up, threw it in back of a Ford Explorer, if I remember correctly. And I
have to say, yes, if you missed our show last week, the topic was the myths of dating, love, and sex, which, oh goodness, that was a roller coaster ride. Like, I can't wait to do it again. I can't wait to do it again. But yes, Stefan, who joined us, Stefan Darnell, he shared one of his dating experiences. And a woman that he went to hook up with had a stoplight in the middle of her house.
Makes a fabulous, coffee table, I guess.
Oh, definitely. I mean, honestly, if we keep doing these shows, we're going to have to do a Where's Your Heart book and just put all those stories in there. I mean, that was an interesting story. But yeah, I like the fact that, Mayo, Stefan, and Gilbert were able to just no holds, like I said, once again, no holds bars. It seems to be the theme, but they were all about you want to know? I'll tell you. I'll let you know about my dating experience, my sex experiences, everything. Yeah. And that was another vulnerable one for me because I mean, one-on-one with my best friend M, different. You can talk about it's so much TMI, it's ridiculous. But the idea of coming on a live show with other people and just being yeah, sure, I'll just share that with you. Oh my goodness. But yeah, if you missed out on that show, it is on our YouTube channel. You can check out that episode, but it was a fun time.
It was hilarious and wonderful. Yes. It was a blast. Oh. Yeah, all right. Sincerest thank you. Not pulling any punches here.
Yeah, no.
Right for the gut.
Thank you so much.
You got one? Do you have what's your response here?
Strangely enough, coming out of a divorce, I think that was one of the biggest problems is that the vulnerability stopped. Because for me, my vulnerability was being able to share, even though I knew the response to what I would share would either lead to complete avoidance of the topic, or have it lead back that it's just my fault that I'm feeling this way. So it got to a point that I just stopped. I stopped just giving that energy out to even say anything. I'm seeing someone currently. It is a very interesting relationship and dynamic, but from the beginning, we never kept anything from each other. I mean, within the first, and like I said on the show last week, we met through Tinder, and we talked for 6 hours. We texted for 6 hours when we first met. And the first hour was just letting each other know about, the situation we're coming out of, the fact that we have kids, what it is we're looking for. And it hasn't stopped. If we have a problem with each other, we talk to each other about it. So I'm glad to have that vulnerability back. There are still moments that I'm scared to death about some things I need to talk about. And, sometimes it doesn't work out the way I want it to, but it will always lead to the conversation happening. So I think that's the one thing that the show has done. Once again, it's opening up the more you start talking about stuff that you were always afraid to talk about or thought you couldn't, it's going to bleed out into every other aspect of your life. You can't control it. It's just like when you are trying to break habits. Those same habits that you think, oh, okay, well, this only applies in work. It applies in life all over, your personal and business. So that's kind of how I see it, is with doing Where's Your Heart. It just bleeds everywhere. It travels everywhere. Anything that I've learned from the show is going to continue on into my daily life.
I talk about it as a muscle. I mean, what I hear there is like courage and vulnerability are like.
And it's just me. Obviously, Royce will be back in just a moment. So let me take a look at some of the other comments that have come in. Yes, stoplight story, we got that. Woo! Yep, please continue on sharing your questions and thoughts and what you thought about some of the episodes that we've done so far. And he's back.
Okay, all right. I mean, fuck you, internet. Okay.
You were on muscle, courage, and vulnerability.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I think of courage and vulnerability as like a bicep and a tricep. They're a muscle pair. And they both have to be present, because being vulnerable requires courage, and true courage requires vulnerability. And I think about them literally as muscles, because they grow over time. And this notion of vulnerability, for me, I think about it as a practice. For me, that journey began in 2005, which, I mean, that everything for me, my life as I knew it ended in 2005. That was the year that I was confronted in clinical pastoral education about the fact that I wouldn't call myself white. I had my and this the mentor in that thing was looking at me and saying, well, it must be nice, because it doesn't really matter. Like, we see you as white, so you have privilege whether you want to claim it or not. So deal with it.
No, I'm just not going to say white, so it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I was one of those colorblind motherfuckers. But it also, that began my practice of vulnerability. And it's like, I'd love to say that it's all hunky-dory now. It's not. Within 3 years, my practice of vulnerability had, as a direct result, had led to a divorce, because I was practicing that. And that also meant differentiating myself from my partner, who was probably even more mentally ill than I was. And it destroyed the relationship. And out of that, my children ended up being victimized in some pretty horrible ways. So, like, it's not easy. And I've made a billion mistakes through it, with that judgment call of, is this a vulnerability moment? Do I need to be vigilant here? What does vigilance look like? That I had to really wrestle with the notion of being vulnerable does not mean sitting in a room with an axe murderer and saying, here, have an axe, right? Like, that's not vulnerability. That's just stupid or suicidal bullshit. So it really, it's hard. So I guess, since it is that, I don't have a real answer there. I know that it's a dance that Sarah, my partner, and I do constantly, because it's not comfortable for us. We were not raised in vulnerability households. Well, my parents are doing far more of it than I remember experiencing from them growing up. So there's really good stuff there. And for me, this flows right into Susan's question. Can I just keep riffing?
Go ahead and keep riffing. I'm going to pop this up.
All right. So this one is interesting. Because number one, yeah. And it's the thing that I wrestled with and still wrestle with. And I made some bad calls, bluntly. And Madison, our daughter, called me on one of them yesterday. She's, you said this. And I was like, shit, I did. And I hear how you took it. I meant this. But like, so, because it's not appropriate for me to burden and go, especially going through a divorce or most situations, there's that notion as a parent where we have to increase the responsibility for the child over their course of their development, but it has to be developmentally appropriate. Otherwise, we are abdicating responsibility and we're putting our job onto our kids. That's how trauma happens to our children. So it's one of those things where it's like, I can't abdicate responsibility. I have to sit in the seat of responsibility, which is very vulnerable and terrifying. And at the same time, it means, especially if the divorce is not amicable, it means somebody's talking shit over there. And I just have to look at a kid and say, I guess you're going to have to make up your mind on this. Pass the potatoes. Which sucks, because you know that you are totally vulnerable to having your child turned against you. I don't know about you, but that's my deepest fear, is that somebody's going to turn my children against me and I'm never going to see them again. Like that would be it for me. I'd clock out. I'd be done. So like, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, Susan. I'm sorry you're going through that. Cause it's rough. It's incredibly rough.
This is precisely why I have Royce as one of the people I go to, as I am in post-divorce. I think I was naive to think that because our kids knew we were unhappy, that divorce was going to be easier than what we were in right now. I really seriously thought, okay, well, no, this is going to be good for them. This is going to be good, because who wants to see their parents fighting all the time? I obviously was wrong. I mean, in the time that we dealt with our divorce, my middle daughter actually went through a depression, and we had to seek help. And we learned a lot of stuff within like her being bullied at a young age in elementary school actually caused PTSD.
Yep.
And it carried on. We thought, well, we'll just take her out of that school and it solved it. But the people who were bullying her lived around the corner from where we lived in the apartment complex. So it was something she was dealing with. But because I was so caught up in the unhappiness of the marriage and, you know, what to do about it, I didn't see it. It was like that with all our kids. So I feel like the one thing that vulnerability kicked in terms of when I went through my divorce and how it affected my kids, was that I needed to acknowledge the damage I did in not remembering that they're there. Yes, I'm over here saying, oh, well, doing a divorce is going to be better for them. But at the same time, I'm still caught up in trying to figure out what I'm going to do for myself to better them. And yes, there, you know, it's kind of like how it was explained to me, the whole airplane scenario. If an airplane's going down, you put your mask on first in order to take care of everybody else. It still has a result in divorce.
Because your child can end up with brain damage.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah. So the one thing I would say, Susan, is the one thing I learned, and it was one thing that was constantly shouted at me by my kids. Because the difficulty for them was, I knew I was going to have to be the one to step out. My ex-husband wouldn't do it. And I knew there was something wrong with the relationship. And in order to see it from a different perspective outside of the home, I had to leave. So my kids stayed with my ex, and it was difficult. They had to witness their father falling apart while seeing their mother. I had to still continue on and work and be on shows like New Mexico Living. And I can't go on the show and really show what I'm feeling, because that doesn't really work to talk about entertainment in New Mexico. So they're seeing their mother going on TV, smiling and looking happy, because they don't know that I was crying myself to sleep at night, or in the shower, or in the car, or, you know, pretty much everywhere. They weren't seeing it. And they felt there was this lack of communication going on with my kids on how I felt during the process or what was going on. So the best thing I could say is, you know, just make sure to keep your kids involved. I'm not saying, and especially Royce, I totally get, being that they're now in two households, there could be somebody in that household that is essentially making it difficult for your kids to think you're doing the best for me, Dad.
Yeah.
They're going to think, wow, you're making things harder, or you don't care. There's somebody that's always going to be picking in their ear. And I just have to trust that that's not going to happen.
Friends at school. Sometimes it's friends at school. Like sometimes it's not even the other parent. There's all sorts of sources for that crap. And you mentioned they stayed with their dad. They're with you also, though.
Yeah. So we did work out, visitation. That was a really important thing. And we split custody. So essentially, for school, they stay with me. He gets them summers, winters, and holidays.
Yeah.
So it breaks down that we're getting even time. And there's sometimes that I know that he wants more time with them, and it's a constant. It's a constant to work on, like, the time spent with the kids. But I mean, for me, it was always about making sure that the kids have time with their father. I never wanted that frankly, I had to have a friend tell me, because I was pushing my kids to see their dad. Oftentimes they didn't want to. And he finally went and said, Teresa, I get what you're doing, but you can't force them to have a relationship with their father. That's something that's going to have to be worked on. You can't force that. So I had to pull back.
That was a bit of wisdom for me, because in our situation, we at first were trying joint custody and even nesting, where the kids stayed in the house and then the two parents would come and go. Like, one of us would be like, it was really like, that was I'm an idealist. I always try to go for the ideal. That broke down after a few months. And their mom literally couldn't uphold any end of the bargain as far as parenting goes. So I ended up with full custody, which I was happy with, because I love my kids. I love being around them, but also brokenhearted about, what that meant for them. And I was the enforcer on that. Like, even when we moved cross country, making sure that they had video chat with her and stuff like that. And it took one of the kids' therapists looking at me and go, you're at this point, I think they were 16 at the time. You need to stop doing that. It has to be their choice. And that's and I know I'm the bad guy in stories, but that, so there you go, Susan. I mean, there's the reality of it. It's going to be messy as fuck, and it's going to suck, and it's going to hurt. And I'm deeply sorry you're going through it.
Yes.
Also, you're an amazing human being and a bright light. And I don't know how you hold yourself there. But yeah, bluntly, that's the thing that'll carry the day with the kids too. Yeah.
I'm not crying. I'm going to the next one. Kelly.
Thank you for all the questions, y'all. And you can tell they're really good, because we're both just like,
Yeah, wow. An episode about how folks are doing a year into the pandemic quarantine might be good. Yeah. I read something earlier about how it's hard to even reach out to people anymore sometimes, and it resonates. Yep. I think that would be an excellent story to cover. I think I saw, really, and I think probably topping onto that is the thing I saw that talked about just mental capabilities because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that have probably felt problems with isolation and depression, the pandemic only just made it a lot worse. And while we're figuring out that segment, I would definitely say, keep reaching out to friends and family, letting them know you're there, and keep talking. That's probably the best thing, just to keep reaching out to people and let them know you're there during the time.
So I did something that was very deliberate right off the bat in the beginning of the quarantine, that I think I got right. So I'm going to share it. I don't like bragging, but this one I feel like, this is worth sharing. I immediately went to several different friends groups that play games, and started RPG nights with different groups.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up with 5, I think, Sunday night. Well, family game night is Tuesday night. Wednesday night is that group of friends. Thursday night's that group of friends. Saturday night's that group of friends. Sunday night's that group of friends. So it's 5 game nights a week, with different circles of friends. And I can't tell you, like, I literally each week, at least one of them gets canceled. So, but that used to be like when I only had 1 game night a week and I was depressed as hell when we lived in Providence, Rhode Island. If that game got canceled, I thought I was going to die, and so something I learned out of that is like, I would rather have to cancel, than, I'd rather overschedule at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really good. Now, I'm not saying 5 is the right number for everybody.
That's what worked for you.
that was what I did, but it just, like, our habits hold us. And so if we, making those commitments to each other, that matters so damn much. I can say that professionally as a coach, as somebody who understands the neuroscience of how we interact around this stuff, around the neuroscience of habits and our dopamine centers, and the importance of social contact. A lack of social contact literally kills us. It kills us. It is an essential human need. So I don't know how you meet those needs. That's how I tried it. And I gotta say, I'm so deeply grateful for the friends. And those things have all changed. Like, they've all it's a year in. Like, one group hasn't stuck to the same game. We've played Fate systems. We've played Monsters and Mutants. We've, like, all sorts of fucking shit. And one group is D&D all the way. One, like, it's all different. But and so a couple of the groups have changed fully members. Like, I may be the only original member in the group.
Wow.
But it doesn't really matter, because we keep bringing in people who need that and who want that connection. So I guess there's one little bit that I'd say right off the bat.
And I'm going to bring up that Kelly mentioned invisibility.
All right. So I love this one. Do you have something to say? Do you have?
I'm just reading. I'm like, wow.
Okay. So
that's another good topic. We will definitely.
Kelly, no, they'll put it up there. We gotta ping this. So Royce mentioned invisibility. A whole invisibility episode might be cool. Caretaker invisibility, bisexual invisibility, invisible disabilities. There's a lot there. I love the topic of invisibility for a million reasons. Personally, so I recently read a little bit of Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, which, one of the typical, as a white guy, I never had to read this. Fuck me, man. Fuck our education system. Okay. But anyway, it's beautiful. My editor had me read the prologue and the first like opening bits, because I talk about invisibility from an inverse perspective. So he's talking about invisibility because of his skin color. As a black man in the 50s, he was literally invisible. He was not going to be acknowledged until there was violence. As somebody that people read as a white man, as what I call the great white male, everything that goes on for me is actually invisible. Nobody sees that I'm a homemaker. Nobody sees that one whole half of my family has a very strong Portuguese Latino roots. I talk about the Thanksgiving flan. Like, my white friends had no fucking clue what flan was. The invisibility of being bisexual. Like, I didn't even know. Well, and now I'm calling myself pansexual. I had no clue that all the guys that I was flirting with, all my gay friends that I would flirt like crazy with and smooch and like all of these things, no, these were actual crushes. That I never exercised because my bisexuality, my pansexuality was invisible even to me. Invisible disabilities. I talk about myself as disabled because I know that I live with depression. Right now, it's not in the driver's seat. But I remember carrying around I carried around twice the number of Tylenol that I needed to kill myself. And I went as far in Providence as taking them out and dumping them into my hand, ready to end it. Like that's, so when we talk about invisible disabilities and things like that, this is the cost of the great white male bullshit too, for me as somebody who reads as a white man. So God, yeah, invisibility, fuck yes, let's talk about it.
And you even mentioned one that I think should be covered is you as a homemaker. I think there's an invisibility in that of a man being one, because there is still that sense that a man taking care of the household, that's women's work. Sorry,
but it's
people.
invisible for women too.
Yep.
Like talking with my mom about it, she's like, yeah, it's invisible. And I just sat there with the weight of how many times did I completely ignore all the shit she did for us, even after she started working full-time plus. Like when she left one of her church jobs, they replaced her with 3.5 people, 3 full-time and 1 half-time positions.
See, that shows you.
All 4 of those people quit within the first year because too much was being asked of them. Like, so.
And your mom was able to do it like.
No, she was stressed as hell and burning the candle at 6 ends. And we felt it in the home too, because she was the primary caregiver at home. So it really, there's a lot there, Kelly. Holy shit, did you like kick over a can with that one?
I'm going to go ahead and put up this quote from Dr. Gaddis going back to Susan's question, just so she can see what he has to say too.
Yeah. But as a kid, those whose parents got divorced, they decided to wait, which just meant more trauma. Then they got divorced spring of my junior year. I had to do my senior year at a new school 1,000 miles away.
Wow.
I was pissed. When they told me, my response was, why did you wait so long? You should have done it 10 years ago. So this one's interesting to me because I have a family member whose parents got divorced while they were in college, and that kind of crazy shit that happens. And you do wonder why did it take so long?
I feel that, like I said, I think I knew when it should have happened. And as I told people before, there was this sense of I needed to be able to say the words and not choke on them. I was like, if first it was like, it was in the belly of being able to say I want a divorce. And then it got to the throat. And then finally it was like, okay, I can say it and know that I mean it. Oh man, I feel that. I totally feel that.
And mine was flipped on that because I knew I would never divorce her, no matter what hell she put me through.
Wow.
Until the kids were at least 18, because her mom, she grew the kid, our children's birth mom grew up never knowing her father. And I knew that was part of the family DNA, and I was not going to be cut out like that. Like I was like, I will walk through hell and just keep walking, because I'm the hell of being completely cut off from my kids is
well, I mean, it's harder. I am.
So she had to say, I want a divorce, but I'm the one that had to get the paperwork done.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, it wasn't until somebody, and I don't associate with them anymore. It's kind of like those people that come in and out of your life. Like it was a moment that they were there, and that was great, but I'm glad they're not there anymore. Yeah. I was talking to him about what was going on, and I actually sat down for a minute and went, okay, well, my youngest at the time was 9, and I thought, okay, he's 9. I think I could hold out for another 9 years. I can hold out for another 9 years if I just, I was actually factoring this out in my head in front of him. And he said to me, he like yelled at me, like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, I'm sorry, but I just need to know that there's a line that will not be crossed for you. Like there has to be that line. Where's the line? Like you should not. Why are you in a relationship that is this hard? Even if it's a marriage, like why? Yeah. And that's what really got me thinking.
A relationship that distorts you, like that. I think that for me, that was the roughest part.
Well, I
But
think
I saw that with you too.
yeah, that's what I think. That's one of the myths of people. If anybody is looking to, if you're in a great relationship, applause. And if you're getting to the point that you're thinking of a marriage, please keep in mind that marriage is not about love. Is only one factor. Like you need to think about other factors when you are planning on spending the rest of your life with someone. And I think a lot of times people get so caught up in, well, it's about sacrifice and you have to sacrifice. And it's like,
no, I'm out. Fuck that.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you learn that you're going to have to, there's give and take. But when it gets to a point that you are pretty much becoming the you used to be becomes invisible, like you don't even recognize it anymore. Something's wrong with that. There's something wrong with that.
That's the question when I used to do marital counseling with folks before doing their ceremonies. That's the question I would ask is do you like who you are when you're with your partner?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's who you're going to become more of.
Yep.
And if you don't absolutely love who you are when you're with your partner, this will hurt. Like I can't say it's going to end in divorce, but it's going to hurt.
And if you have a sense of, and sometimes I hear people say like, well, I'm just always there for them and I will, I'll be there through thick and thin and, I'm there for them. And I was like, could they say the same thing about you? Like if they were asked, you're putting in so much dedication into one person over the needs of your own self. Like that's something that needs to be, evaluated. Just check in on that. So that, oh yay, marriage. Okay, wow, this show.
Well,
today.
Okay, but let's get the meta. Let's get a sense of the meta here. Like we're divorce, whether people talk about it like this or not. Divorce on the trauma scale, emotional trauma scale, it's the second most traumatic thing that can happen to a human being. It is second only to the violent, unexpected death of a loved one. So just check in on that, folks. When you're dealing with divorce, you are dealing with something where your subconscious thinks food, water, shelter, and meaningful social interaction are all in danger and you're going to die. That's your subconscious's take on the thing. So it's traumatic as fuck. It also, as Kelly's last comment there, I strongly believe most divorces are ultimately for the best. No one likes to say it, but it's better than staying in a situation that's unhealthy or stagnant. Yep. Painful, but often the only way to grow.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I don't know about anybody else, but I know my first marriage at like age 23, I think I was 24. I wasn't done myself. So like my sense of who I was shifted. And if the relationship can't accommodate that, if it's not going to grow with our growth as an individual, then we're have to choose between killing ourselves or ending the relationship. Like that's, so it sucks. And
and definitely understand that it's interesting you brought up divorce and death, because that was the one thing I had to learn was,
and not just death, the violent, unexpected death.
Like, because I could not, essentially my therapist had to remind me, like, you need to understand your marriage is, your marriage died. It's a death. And you need, and you're going to mourn and you're going to grieve just like you would if somebody died. It's the same process. And we unfortunately went through it twice because we tried to reconcile. And so we went through it twice. Because I think we knew when I left, and that first time I was like, I know this was the right choice, but you think about your kids and you're thinking maybe you're moving too fast. And after 6 months, it was like, that wasn't, the original thought was the right choice.
And do you have any doubts now?
No.
And
it was better for both of us. It was better for both of us in the
end. That whole thing. The other thing is, you mentioned death and grief. The other thing that I think we don't realize or I didn't realize when I was younger, is that grief stacks. Like every time we have a new grief, a new death, so to speak, it actually in our subconscious, because our subconscious is this crazy associative ball of neurons, it will literally be experiencing every death or every grief, every ending that we've ever experienced in life. So when that divorce happened, I was still mourning my friend that died my sophomore year of high school, right? Like I was still mourning my grandfather and the shit that he said to me before he died. Like that's how grief works. So you're exactly right. When we go through a divorce, we think that it's different, but it's not. It's the subconscious again reads it the way it reads it, and it's not rational. This is how it works. So it really, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just going to go back to some comments. And Susan, thank you for being open enough to share with us today. I really appreciate that. And of course, we have Sarah. Oh, yep.
She's
so partially your prelim managed executive function. That is why we're more proactive and general. Yep.
She's speaking from puppy brain there. I'm just going to name that.
As Sarah also mentioned, number one most stressful is moving. Yep.
God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And moving during a pandemic, I just, like, I'm used to, I love moving I don't love moving my friends. I do love it, but I don't. Like,
I don't know anybody that's just like, I'm so excited about putting things in boxes and labeling them and trying to get friends to move me out. Oh my gosh, yeah, I just need to get a U-Haul. I just need to get a U-Haul and just throw all that shit in there and just be like, I'll sort that shit out when I get to this. Yeah. Like I think that's how moving just needs to be. So
I lived in married student housing when we first got to seminary, and I made it a task of just like anytime people come or go, I go help, and we buy pizza or beer, or somebody buys pizza or beer or whatever, and we just turn it into a social event. And it was like, I have a hard time saying I enjoy helping people move, but I love the moments, because there's always that moment where the person moving in their frazzled, like completely fucked in the head state of mind looks at something and goes, why the fuck did I bring that? And tosses it in the trash, but there's moments of vulnerability in moving, because we are so stripped of all the shit that our puritanical culture demands of us. So there's beautiful moments in it. So I guess that's my wish for those of you enduring the moving pain.
Yeah, that I had that beautiful moment at least 3 times of crying in my car.
Oh God, yes. Oh yes.
I was just like, I'm just gonna.
In which driveway?
It was like both. I had to both. I had them both. Like they were sometimes they have a question. I just be like, just give me a minute. Just get.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Okay, I'm ready. What was your question? Yeah, there was a lot of moments for that. Yeah, moving is not easy. It is definitely something that will just test your limits. That is a given. That is a given. And we are up to the wrap up of our show for today. Like, I was nervous about this one. I was nervous.
So I have to say a big thank you to Susan, to Sarah, to Kelly, to Dr. Gaddis, to Sinceris. Thank you guys for jumping out and asking questions, and like, this is what the Talkback live show for me, when I've pictured it in my head, this is what it's like where we get to actually interact like this. So thank you guys.
This gives us a good idea of what we should be tackling for future shows. So, I mean, thank you so much for opening up and sharing, because it's gonna help this show grow even more in the long run. So I'm really excited about that.
Visibility and enduring COVID quarantine.
And maybe we'll just do a show about what's your most horrible moving moment. So, tips on not how to drive yourself crazy while moving. Well, everyone, thank you again for joining us on this Monday. Always, where's your heart? Thank you for coming every week. Please remember to subscribe before you leave the screen and click the notification button so you know when we are live. Say goodnight, Royce.
Okay, I'm reading more comments. There's fun comments coming in.
You guys just keep. They're like, okay, what do we got? What do we got? Oh wait, it's the moving. The moving got him. The moving got him.
Stories.
They got to say, moving is a great time to become a.
See, I think our audience has the last word tonight.
I just have a bed. I want just a bed and a table. I think that's all I need. I think that's
table.
It.
Why do you need a table?
Well, to eat cereal on.
That's just a tray.
Just a tray. That's all I need.
Tray.
Oh, and thank you, Kelly. We love you too. We will keep going.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for your patience on what we have to do to keep going. Oh, yeah. See, we're going to have to do a moving show. It's happening. Moving show.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Let's do it. I'm down.
Awesome. All right. Now I was like, okay, they have the last word. That was it. Okay.
That was it.
That was it. Say goodnight, Royce.
Good night, Royce.
Bye, everybody. See you next week.